Alright, now I'm going to show you how I created this picture. It looks like an invisible man doing a kickflip on a skateboard. You can see, you just see the shoes and the skateboard. I think that's pretty cool. So let's go to Photoshop and let's go step by step. So here are the two pictures we took. As you can see down here, they're in two different layers. And if I turn off this layer, you can see that the lighting conditions are exactly the same in each frame. And now this is the very first important step that you need to consider when you're first taking your two pictures. Your first one being just the background layer, and the second one being the foreground element, whatever your subject is. So you need to use manual mode on your camera to make sure that both frames are exactly the same in terms of brightness and aperture and all that. So the aperture, the shutter speed, the ISO, the white balance, and the focusing point all need to be in the exact same value on each frame. So I would use manual mode, manual focusing, and manual white balance. So that's that. That's the first step. So you've taken your pictures, and now here they are, the two pictures. And to get them in line perfectly, you need to use a tripod. Forgot to mention that. Alright, so let's start erasing my hands in the box to make it look like an invisible man. So to do that, we're just going to make the layer mask down here. And then grab a black brush. And then zoom in and just start erasing. I'm just going to get the big chunks first. And then I'll go back later and do the finer details. Alright, now to get the finer details in the shoe here, I'm just going to grab my pen tool. I'm going to make sure when I'm in the pen tool, I'm going to make sure that this little box is checked, the add path to area. Not any of these other ones, just this one. So now I'm going to zoom in really close to get a very accurate selection. I'm just going to make very close selections here. Alright, now I'm just going to zoom in again and go back to my original spot right there. And now my path is closed. And now this is just a path though, so we need to make it an actual selection so we can work with it. So let's right click inside of it and click Make Selection. Now I'm going to feather this path by 1 pixel. If I do it by 0 pixels, it's going to look cheap and fake. If I do it by maybe anything more than 5, it's also going to look pretty fake and photoshopped. So I like to stick with 1 or 2 and go from there. So now we have the selection, and now what we're going to do is, because this black color is our foreground color, if we push Alt backspace, it will erase everything inside the selection and fill it with black on the layer mask. Now if this black color was the background color, we could push Control backspace and it'll do the exact same thing. So Control backspace controls the background color and Alt backspace controls the foreground color. So now that we've got that done, that looks pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell if that was photoshopped or not. So let's go to this one and let's do the exact same thing. Grab the pen tool and make a very nice selection here. Okay, now let's see if this selection will work. Sometimes the pen tool is not the best tool in every scenario, but sometimes it is. So if this doesn't look good, we'll try the brush tool and that will look better. So let's see what it looks like. So there we go. That doesn't look too bad. One thing though is this edge right here is kind of sharp. So what I'm going to do is just grab my brush tool and just see if I can fix that really quick. Let's see here. I'm going to make this size smaller, just like about that. Right there. Now see, that kind of does look photoshopped a little bit. There we go. That looks alright. And I could spend maybe a minute or two going in there and making sure I got it perfectly, but I think it's pretty good how it is right now. So now let's go and remove this red box. First let's grab our pen tool, because that's what I like. If you used a brush right here, it would not come out very good looking, and a lot of people just use the brush, and that is not the best way to do things like this, because you can see here this line is perfectly straight. So if you use a brush tool, it's not going to be very perfect. So let's make a point right here and make another one over here. And now you can see that selection is pretty darn good. So we're going to go with that, and hold on. There we go, that's perfect. Alright, and now let's just kind of go down here, make a quick selection, go back to the original point. It's right there. Let's right click, make selection, feather it by 1 pixel, and fill it in with the black color, and bammo. Now look at this. You'll see that the frame that I was in, I was casting shadows on the ground. So in order to get rid of that shadow, we're just going to grab a big black soft brush and lower the hardness to 0% and make the size pretty big. And now we can just, now we can just paint in that shadow with black on the layer mask. Make sure you have the layer mask selected. If you end up just painting black on the actual picture, that is because the layer mask is not selected, so make sure that's selected. Alright, so we're almost there. Now in this area, I'm just going to grab a smaller brush, make it kind of harder. There we go. Just kind of get in there with those details. And bam. Oh, look at this. We missed this little red part here. So let's zoom in and make another selection, just like so. Just right about there. Now, let's see how this looks. Whoops, see, I just did it. So you make sure the layer mask is selected and not the picture. So click on it to select it. Alright. There we go. Perfect. And now you'll see in the original picture, let's see if I can grab that. It's right here. You'll see that this one's more saturated in color. And in order to do that, I don't remember doing too much. Actually, before I make it saturated, we forgot to add a shadow right here. So let's go back, and what I'm going to do is just burn this background layer. So I'm going to select and use the burn tool right here. I'm going to select the midtones up here. I'm going to lower the exposure to about 6%, a really, really low percentage. And now I'm just going to click and burn this area a few times just to get that shadow in there. And sometimes you'll have to do it a few times to get it to where it's to where it looks realistic. You have to play around and figure out what the best how it looks best. I think that doesn't look too bad right there. I'm gonna do one more actually, right about here. There we go, that looks nice. So just very, very, very subtle. You don't want to overdo it because it'll look totally fake. And now that that is all done, we are gonna go to layer, flatten image, and that just combines those two layers and makes it into one. So no one will know that you photoshopped it. Okay. So now to get that effect, I just went to Image Adjustments, HDR Toning, and then I just added just a little bit. I mean, hardly anything. Whoops. I just kind of bumped up the vibrance a little bit, and there. Now let's compare that to the original that I had. Yeah, it's a pretty accurate representation of what I had going before. So that's that. That's the Invisible Man trick number 1. An invisible man doing an invisible kickflip on a skateboard.